Hello, BookTube. I've got a bunch of books I want to talk to you about. I want to show you a bunch of books. How's that for vague? I am constantly in the focus of a fire hose of books. And that's what we're all here for, right? This is, after all, BookTube. So I've got a bunch of books I want to show you for no better reason than just to talk about them with you, show them to you. Maybe you'll be interested in them. So we'll start off with philosophy. Yay! So this comes out in October. And this is a novel called The Dimensions of a Cave. And there is Plato, and the cave, of course, will be Plato's cave. So let's see what we have here. Let's see here. So this is the author of a critically acclaimed short story collection called Prodigals. And he's the recipient of the National Book Award's 5 Under 35 Award and the Bard Fiction Prize. Let's see here. Timely and perhaps prophetic, The Dimensions of a Cave tackles the question of objective truth in the face of new technologies like virtual reality and artificial intelligence. As we grapple with our own spate of emerging information technologies and their implications on our lives and our way of perceiving the world, stories like Jackson's have never been more immediate or necessary. Okay, what is that story? When the investigative reporter Quentin Jones's story about covert military interrogation practices in the Desert War is buried, he is spurred to dig deeper, and he unravels a trail that leads to Virtue, all capital letters, a cutting-edge technology that simulates reality during interrogation. As the shadowy labyrinths of governmental corruption unfurl and tighten around him, okay, I don't know that labyrinths either unfurl or tighten, but that's okay. I think I know what you mean. Unnerving links to his protege, Bruce, who, like Joseph Conrad's Kurtz, disappeared into the war several years earlier, keep emerging. Jackson's debut novel, oh, wow, it's a debut novel. Okay, great. Is a virtuosic journey into the dangers that lie at the intersections between entrenched networks of power and novel, reality-bending technologies. It explores our drive toward war, corruption, and exploitation with unmatched urgency and intelligence. Okay. Okay, these technologies don't bend reality. But I think I know what you mean. Let's see here. Prodigals, which is an earlier book by this author, received glowing praise when it was released back in 2016, garnering the author comparisons to Ben Lerner, David Foster Wallace, Ann Beattie, and Martin Amis. And Dwight Garner of the Times called Jackson's writing, quote, so bold and perceptive that it delivers a contact high. Like Dwight would know what a contact high feels like. Okay, great. Well, this is a debut novel, and you know how I love them, so I'll get to this, not immediately. It's down the line some. Then we have another new release. Do I have a sheet for this? I do. Great. Fantastic. This is out in mid-August, and this is by Catherine Kramer Brownell, and it's called 24/7 Politics, Cable Television, and the Fragmenting of America from Watergate to Fox News. Okay. Problems with the subtitle right there. Watergate was the criminal act of a president that was uncovered by the news. The Fox network, had as its conceptual method, its inspiring ideology, the mission to lie. So they're not quite the same thing, but let's see. As television began to overtake the political landscape in the 1960s, network broadcast companies, bolstered by powerful lobbying interests, dominated screens across the nation. Yet over the next 3 decades, the expansion of a different communications technology, cable, changed all of this. 24/7 Politics tells the story of how the cable industry worked with political leaders to create an entirely new approach to television, one that tethered politics to profits and divided and distracted Americans by feeding their appetite for entertainment, frequently at the expense of fostering responsible citizenship. In this timely and provocative book, the author argues that cable television itself is not to blame for today's rampant polarization and scandal politics. Absolute nonsense. The Fox network tried intentionally. It was their inceptive goal to, what was it? Create rampant polarization and scandal politics. It was their job from the beginning. We have the memos. There is no doubt here. This is not historical spin. They intended to be a divisive propaganda channel. So they are to blame. They are to blame. They are explicitly, individually, by name, to blame. The intentional restructuring of television as a political institution is. The author describes how cable innovations, from C-SPAN coverage of congressional debates to 1980s to MTV's foray into presidential politics in the 1990s, took on network broadcasting using market forces, giving rise to a more decentralized media world. The author shows how cable became an unstoppable medium for political communication that prioritized cult followings and loyalty to individual brands, fundamentally reshaping party politics, and in the process sowed the seeds of democratic upheaval. Okay, the author is a professor of history at Purdue, and this is a subject that affects us all. Naturally, I won't get to this until August, but I've got all of July to do. Although July is a pretty weak month for books. I might get to this a lot earlier than that. It sounds like I'm going to argue with it just a bit, but that's good. That's always good. I'm curious, though, just as a side note, having read that publicity sheet, how many of you, I know this is a subject for a Steve stream, but how many of you watch a standard network news? Not cable, but CBS or NBC, a standard network news. And are there any of you who don't watch any television news at all, who still just do the newspapers? Or maybe, online sites for newspapers? Very curious about that. Very curious where people get their news. But anyway, let's move on here. We have, next we have, right, okay. All right, this sheet here isn't going to help me because it's a note from the publisher. The publisher asked if he could send me this, and I couldn't say no to a book with a title like this. This is by Gary Levisi, and it's called Mars Needs Books. He sent me also a copy of his Paperback Collector magazine that is just a trip down memory lane. Full-color little square-bound thing with just paperback covers on every page, and some custom-written articles. Wonderful. Just wonderful to go through. I'm not a paperback collector, but in terms of, what's rare or what you're unlikely to find or what you can mark up on Amazon. But I remember almost all the covers that are in that thing. But what have we got here? In the not-so-distant future, men have come to Mars to escape the oppressive Earth government. Ryan is an agent for a super-secret government agency, and the Department of Control, DOC, has always been willing to do whatever his masters want of him. Okay, he works for the Department of Control. But on Mars, everything is different, and all that Ryan does is read books. Hard-boiled, noir crime paperbacks dating from the last century. In fact, such works are read and collected by everyone on Mars, even serving as a medium of exchange. Dream on, bub. Dream on. Oh, why? Is there some secret DOC plot involved? No, I think it's that a bookworm nerd wrote this book. But sure, we can go with the DOC hypothesis. Or has Ryan conjured up a literary fantasy in his own guilt-twisted mind? Yeah, I'm thinking. Maybe he's still confined in a prison cell back on Earth, reading a science fiction novel called Mars Needs Books. See the cleverness here? As Ryan probes deeper and deeper into the mystery, he comes to understand just one thing. He must uncover the truth. This is a perfect example of the kind of good, meaty fun the indie presses can do that mainstream presses absolutely cannot anymore. You might as well abandon them. They can't. You cannot get something like this anymore from them. No way. This thing would be pitched and retconned into oblivion. It wouldn't even be recognizable by the time it came out from Macmillan or Simon & Schuster or something like that. But here it is from Borgo Press. So I don't know, when did this come out? The author thought I might want to read this, and I definitely do. But I don't think this is brand new. Yeah, 2011. But just in case you want a nice science fiction meta romp, Mars Needs Books. Then we'll go with Reaction Books. This is a biography. This is by Peter Mason, and it's a biography of Ulisse Aldrovandi. Here he is. Don't judge too harshly. That is impacted piles and also horrible teeth. With no relief. Other than wine, no relief at all. So you're going to look like that because you're going to be in physical misery every day. Do I have a sheet for this? I don't think I do. We've seen this series before from Reaction Books. They do these little, this is called Naturalist and Collector. They do this series of biographies. We've seen quite a few of these before. Yeah, there's a whole list of them here. We saw Artemisia Gentileschi, Botticelli, Caravaggio, Descartes, Donatello. I never got the Erasmus one, and I wish I had. There's a little Erasmus one. Also a Newton, is that right? Yeah, there's a Newton one. These are really fun, little biographies like this. I don't have... oh, no, wait, here we go. It's on the end papers. I don't have any papers, but it's printed on the end papers. The Bolognese naturalist Ulisse Aldrovandi was a prolific writer, polymath, and prodigious collector who amassed the largest collection of naturalia in 16th century Europe, as well as hundreds of colored drawings detailing them. Many of these drawings found their way into his illustrated publications, most of which were published posthumously. He was a perfect example of the scholar who just can't finish a book. This book provides a concise yet comprehensive portrait of Aldrovandi, paying particular attention to two aspects: the role that the newly discovered continent of America played in his research interests, and his study of abnormalities in physiological development in organisms. Peter Mason gives insight into Aldrovandi's fascinating life, his early work on antiquities, his natural history and other collecting activities, his network of correspondents, patrons, and suppliers of his images, and the influence and legacy of his collection and publications. Fantastic. Certainly the only biography of this figure in English that's ever been written. Certainly that I know of. And God bless Reaction Books for constantly doing this sort of thing. The list of these books is now very long. Okay, then this next one is not new. This came from a viewer who was at a book sale and found a book that naturally reminded him of me. It's John Julius Norwich's one-volume History of Venice. It'll be like new when I put one of those see-through plastic library dust jacket covers over this thing. I love this book. I love this author, just in general, but I love this book, and I don't have a copy. I didn't have a copy when this person emailed me and said, hey, I've got access to a copy of this, and I'd love to send it to you. My automatic response was, well, I have it. And it was not very nice of you to think of me, but I have it. But then I looked, and I didn't even have the fat trade paperback. I get rid of this thing as fast as I get it. So now I have a copy. Fantastic. As far as one-volume histories of Venice go, I have a sweet spot for them. Some of you may know that because if you're new to the channel, I lived in Venice for a while. And so I have a soft spot for books about Venice. Histories, architectural guides, you name it. Okay, then this next one we'll go back to the indie press. This is by Boris Kester, and it is The Long Road to Cullaville. Stories from my travels to every country in the world. The author goes to every country in the world. Embark on a remarkable journey in Boris Kester's compelling book, The Long Road to Cullaville, as he endeavors to visit every country and unveils the stunning beauty, enthralling cultures, and unforgettable adventures found across the globe. Witness breathtaking landscapes in Yemen, vibrant streets in Congo, the enigmatic island of Nauru, Afghanistan's majestic terrain, and lesser-known yet equally captivating countries through Boris's passionate storytelling. Comprising 16 mesmerizing stories, this book invites readers to immerse themselves in the magic of travel, the influence of fate, and the inherent risks accompanying each adventure. This book caters to both experienced globetrotters and armchair travelers, inspiring wanderlust and curiosity in all. This captivating read will undoubtedly alter your perception of our world, whether you aspire to visit every country or simply crave a glimpse of the unknown. So, travel writing on a truly epic scale. I mean, think of the million books that have been written that fall under the heading of travel writing. Of those million, how many of them are written by somebody who has been to every country in the world? I have not been to every country in the world. So this takes its company, very small number of books. This is going to be, well, this is indie, so it doesn't have a price on it. But it's a 2023 release. This might be out already. It doesn't have any paperwork in it. But I wanted to show it to you in case you were interested. If you're a travel writing reader, well, this guy doesn't kid around. He didn't go to just a handful of places. He's been everywhere. So I wanted to show it to you, make sure you knew it was there. And then this last one, bit of an oddity here. Red Angry book. This is by John Dudley Willis. I also wanted you to know that this existed, just in case. This is called Our Violent World and the Ethics of Jesus. It's an oversized thing, monstrously researched. just look at the footnotes on this thing. Just incredible. Monstrously researched. If you've got the standard, self-published, indie-published look to it, but this is about the iniquities of Christianity, the violence of Christianity. This is an indictment, a gigantic, detailed indictment of Christianity. Let's read just a bit here. This book is driven by 40 years of study on 1,700 years of Christian violence. The historical section, part 1, opens with Christianity is the most homicidal religion in the history of the world. 500 million men, women, and children, infants, elderly, sick, and disabled, slain. You read how Christians were and are taught to obey their governments more than Jesus Christ, whether killing as soldiers, torturing for governments, or harming innocent citizens as police. You read the words of Christian European kings, queens, and popes to their Christian explorers sent into the world. Discover, subdue, and conquer. You read one American Christian president telling the U.S. Congress that, quote, the red man will be annihilated if he does not move. You read about 2 more U.S. Christian presidents, a father and a son, who tricked, lied, warred, and murdered Muslims for oil, using Christian citizens to do it, effectively murdering them too. You read how the Nazis were not monsters, but just good German Christians obeying their latest government regime. And so on. This is a very angry book by the sound of it. Haven't read it yet, but it sounds like it's going to be a very angry book and a take no prisoners type of thing. Now, those of you who are Christians out there, especially Christians with a good knowledge of history, are going to be able to think up rejoinders to this book right away. This author is probably going to say that I'm aware of those rejoinders too, and they don't matter in the face of the scale of violence that we're talking about here. That if you're going to say that Christianity has also inspired people to reach beyond themselves, to help beyond their capacity, to show mercy, to be willing to die in defense of the innocent and the weak, this author is probably going to say, judging by the tone of things, probably in his first paragraph, that is all true and that it doesn't matter. It's a Dixie cup in the ocean compared to what the negatives are. I'm always interested in this sort of thing. I have a dog in the race, so we will see. I just wanted to show it to you in case, again, maybe this strikes you as even more interesting than it strikes me. A serious research work about Christianity in the real world, that is right up my alley. A self-published book about traveling the world, right up my alley. A book about Venice, right up my alley. So I wanted to show you all of these things. We'll do a little Steve pyramid here. We have Our World, Our Violent World, and the Ethics of Jesus Christ. Not a good title. I would have given it a better title. But I'm gonna read it with enormous interest. Then The Long Road to Colorville. The author goes to every country in the world. How's that for amazing? Then John Julius Norris's History of Venice, well known to a lot of you. I'm sure you've seen it. And thank you very much to the person who said it. Cannot express how grateful I am when one of you breaks rule number 1 advisedly. Then we have a biography of Ulysses Aldrovandi, the naturalist, a collector of shot and taxidermied animals. We have Gary Levisi's novel from 10 years ago, Mars Needs Books. Is Mars a weird Utopia Planitia paradise where people are trading old pulp paperbacks as currency? Or is that just a dream of someone who's locked up somewhere and imagining what that Mars would be like? Then we have 24/7 politics. What role has cable news played in the fracturing of American political discourse? Fascinating subject that affects us all. And finally, The Dimensions of a Cave by Greg Jackson. Quasi-philosophical novel, which makes me want to use my incisors to rip its guts out, but it's also a debut novel, which makes me want to cuddle with it. So I'm conflicted. I don't have to worry about it until October, but I'm conflicted. But anyway, that's just a random book pile for now. Believe it or not, got a few more random book piles to show you. I figure you won't mind. So I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.